Engaging in conversations about race doesn't have to be as challenging as some make it out to be. Two Rochester women have found that incorporating a good book and yoga in a non-judgmental environment is an ideal combination for learning more about ourselves and our world. The two recently launched an inclusive club called Books and Yoga. The mission is to promote a healed self and an empowered community. Joining me now to share more are the founders of Books and Yoga, Martisa Williams and Hannah Betts, and welcome to you both. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So my guess is I introduced this segment and some guests, or viewers I should say, are watching and thinking, so how in the world can a book and yoga help us have conversations about race and help us to feel empowered? So how would you explain the concept behind this? Martisa, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, the cliche that knowledge is power. So being able to read something that is a different perspective of what you're normally getting. The idea, Hannah always says that books allow us to learn outside of our own worlds. And that's really what it's all about. But I think that having the mix of the yoga piece allows you to bring that information back to yourself. Digest it, kind of let it simmer and marinate, and then you can move with that knowledge and do as you may with it.
With the intention of having action afterwards, like to have these conversations that can be difficult, but then to be able to meditate on it and then go out in the world and do something with that knowledge.
So I'm curious in terms of, was there something that you saw in our community or didn't see in our local community that made you say, we need something like this and we need it now?
I think for both of us, we were just looking to create a space that felt inclusive, and we both come from different worlds. And for me, growing up, I didn't read a lot in school. I didn't read a lot of books that were specifically written by authors of color. And I really wanted to really focus on that. And I think Martisa was kind of in that same boat. Just we didn't get a lot of that in our education.
Yeah, it wasn't until I got to U of R and like specifically started studying gender studies and critical race theory and all of that, that I was like, so I went my entire life without this knowledge, and it's only me who went out and saw it that I got it. So that's why we were like, okay, we need to do something to help bridge the gap. You know?
Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting time. I'm going to kind of go into the yoga for just a moment. An interesting time to look at yoga in America, because it almost seems as though it's trying to reinvent itself, so to speak. And I think there are certain organizations, national organizations and local organizations locally, Yoga for a Good Hood, which both of you are involved in that group, to kind of, and I say this because when we would open up yoga magazines, right, we would see white women all the time in the magazines. You would go to a class and that's just kind of what you thought was the ideal person for yoga, and that is changing. And I'm curious if part of your mission is to address yoga's diversity issue as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And the accessibility of wellness. We think that that's so important. We know what yoga has done for us. We actually met in Yoga for a Good Hood, so that's kind of where our relationship started. But just to see like and feel what that can do for us, like everybody should be able to have that.
Talk about what it has done for you. So for people who don't understand what the yoga experience is like and what it can do, what happens?
Well, it's my favorite thing to talk about. But I mean, for me, yoga is all about very much like a looking inward. We spend all of our days, all of our life outwardly searching, looking, learning, whatever, experiencing, and very few of us spend enough time moving inward to see how is all this stuff that we're inputting into our life, how is it setting in us? How is it changing us? How is it uplifting us or not uplifting us? And that's what I feel like yoga, one of the billions of things that yoga allows us to do, is it gives us a moment to like say, what's going on here? Let me check in. And then it opens up a whole new world, the inner world.
For me, it started for the physicality of it, and then I realized that it wasn't about that at all, that it was about like coming face to face with yourself on the mat and looking inward. And I think that was huge. It helps me deal with my anxiety that I have daily. And I think that I can do that for everybody. So just to be able to make it accessible and something that really everyone should offer, and Yoga for a Good Hood does a beautiful job of that.
So do you make it kind of a bit more about the spiritual, more so than the physical when it comes to books and yoga?
It's a both.
It is.
It's both. I mean, for me, I think that for a lot of people come for the physical, but it's a inward route, I think. You know, you start sweating, you start working, and you're like, oh, there's more here than just this like physical sensation in my body. It's like a route inward. So, I mean, it's a little bit of both.
But especially coming from the conversations that we have, which can be difficult. I mean, and depending on even our demographic that's in our group, which changes all the time, but to have these conversations and then be able to go sit with it on your mat, I think is really powerful.
Let's talk about the conversations, because you're very intentional in the books that you select, and you ensure that whether it's a fiction book or a nonfiction book, it's written by a woman of color. And you explained a bit just about the opening ourselves up to stories that we haven't heard before. So what types of conversations are being generated when you get together and you just really go all in?
Well, we started with the book name is escaping me.
Why I'm no longer talking to white people about race.
Yes.
So we wanted to kind of start out with a bang. Like, we wanted to be like, this is our mission. We're going to keep coming back to these books. I mean, it talks a lot about specifically white privilege. So it was just dealing with things that, you know, that are more difficult to talk about in kind of a group of people, not knowing where their backgrounds came from, who they are. So there was a lot of difficult conversation in that book, but I think we all grew from it, and it's one of our favorite books to this day.
Yeah.
How transparent are people when they're open and they're sharing, whether it's their own experiences or their perceptions? Are they raw? Are they feeling like they're in the space where they can just kind of unload, or are some people more reserved?
I think it depends on the person. Most people we have found is really open and honest and talking about their experiences. Oftentimes it ends up about us just like kind of talking about our lives rather than even the book. I mean, obviously we continue to reference the book, but it opens up so many doors to talk about more than just this text, but also our own experience in relation to the text.
Okay, and then you said after these conversations, difficult at times, you go to the mat, and then that's the process of just really working through what you've just ingested and shared.
Right.
And what are you hearing from people? What are you hearing from participants, whether when they're done with their practice after an event, or maybe someone's, I know you've been to a few events and they have a different way of looking at themselves or the world. What are they saying?
I mean, I think the book really depends on it. We just read Not That Bad, that's edited by Roxane Gay, and that was, I mean, it was a traumatic book. It was stories of rape culture in what's going on now, and it was hard to read, and we're like, why do we put ourselves through this? But these are conversations that we needed to have and that we needed to talk about. So that was a really interesting day on the mat, because I felt like we were all kind of just healing from that.
Yeah.
It was just a pretty traumatic book. So I think it depends on the book that we're reading and kind of how people feel afterwards. But again, we really encourage that there's some sort of action after that, you know, because I think our minds are opening up and we're learning more, we're educating ourselves, and now what are we going to do with that knowledge?
And what types of things are you hearing that people are doing when it's all said and done and they're heading out there, you know, into the world? What are they doing? How are they acting?
People keep coming back. That's one thing. We get like repeat people who are coming every month, which is amazing for us. I mean, people are going out and they're having these conversations at home. They're sharing the books, all of that. So I think that it's gonna just continue to like trickle out and to see what people are doing. But people are being exposed to novels and texts and information that they wouldn't even have encountered or picked on their own. So.
And just to kind of walk in our city and see this kind of segregation that's going on. I think a lot of times, specifically as a white woman, I didn't see that for the longest time. I was taught to be colorblind. In reality, that's not the way that we should be walking through life. But I think you have to be able to open your eyes to that. And I think that these books and these texts are doing that for a lot of people, that we're able to walk through this city and say, you know what, this is a very segregated city.
Right.
What can we do about it? What kind of actions can we take towards it?
So for those who are tuning in right now and they're thinking, I want, you know, to attend, there's an event coming up on January 20th. How does it work? How can they sign up?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram, Books and Yoga Rock, both spaces. And there's, in the link in both bios is tickets, and tickets are sliding scale. So it goes from $15 to $25, so whatever you can afford, we offer for you to just come and hang out with us. If you need help getting a resource with a book, we can make sure that that is set in stone. So whatever you need, just let us know, reach out to us, booksandyogarock@gmail.com for any information.
Great. Well, a special thank you to Martisa and Hannah for joining me today and for the work that you're doing. We appreciate it. And you can learn more about Books and Yoga and their upcoming events on their Facebook page. Just search for Books and Yoga Rock. And again, their next event is on Sunday, January 20th at 11:30 a.m. at the Lives Styled Studio on Gregory Street.